Welcome back to My Abiding Journal. My name is Kelsey Lee, and today we are going to flip through my monthly journal so far this year. And in the process, I am going to answer one of the questions I get all the time, which is, how do you choose what to document? What do you document every single month? That is something that I know people tend to struggle with figuring out. How do you actually document your life and decide what to stick into a journal? Well, today we're going to walk through that by sharing with you what I document each month. And if you're interested, I have a printable available for you on my Patreon that is going to help you in this process. This prompts grid is designed to help you easily capture the memories and reflections that matter most to you. All you have to do is choose a few prompts. You can do this monthly like I do, or use these prompts daily or weekly, whatever time frame is going to work for you, and take them as that initial nudge to get into your journal and document your life. Because, as I always say, your life is worth documenting. So I hope you'll join our community and get your hands on this freebie. And as I go through the pages of my journal, you are going to see me reference these prompts often because it really is how I get myself to think through all of the different areas I want to document every single month. So this is my monthly journal. I personally like to monthly journal in a separate notebook that is just dedicated to monthly journaling. This is a Dingbats B5 dot grid notebook, and I have it in this beautiful cover by Documented Journey. And as you are going to see, I already have multiple months and years documented in this journal. And today we are going to specifically look at my entries so far for 2025. Before we dive in, it's worth noting two things. The first is that I actually already have a flip through here on my channel of the first quarter. So we're going to go through those entries relatively quickly. And the second important thing for you to know is that every single one of these entries you are going to see is actually a journal with me here on my channel, because every single entry in this notebook I do as a live stream with our monthly journaling club. The monthly journaling club is a free club here on YouTube and on my Patreon, where we get together every single month to document our lives 1 month at a time. So you can get all of the details over on my Patreon for when our next monthly journaling club hangout is going to be. And I really hope that you'll consider joining us for the monthly journaling club in 2026. But we're not quite there yet, so let's focus in on 2025 and all that we have experienced thus far. It is worth a quick note that I always create a cover page for a new year, and I did write a little future note to myself that I'll read in a few months when we turn to 2026. I also have a big goal, a word of the year, and a picture of me just to kind of set the scene for the new year. And then I have my spreads for each month. And what I do is I essentially document 1 month on a 2-page layout. And I always have the title on the month. These diagonal titles are available on my Patreon. And then I just document all the things. But I'm going to flip through the first 3 months of January, February, and March relatively quickly because I already talked through these entries in a previous flip through, so you can check that out. Like I said, I'll have it linked in the description. And we are going to skip to the second quarter, which begins with April. And April was a super fun month. I just love the colors and the vibe of this entry. I feel like you really feel the transition to spring in this page with all of the fun greenery and the colors of the flowers popping through. And of course, the centerpiece of this page is this illustration I did of a brown thrasher. We will bring you a little closer so you can actually see some of the details of this entry. So, right in the middle, we have kind of the star of the entry, which is this illustration of a brown thrasher, which was a surprise garden guest. And this worked out really nicely because one of the bucket list items for this month was to go birding and identify the species. So I was able to accomplish that in my own backyard. And then I also spent time in the garden. We finally planted bushes, which was a huge accomplishment for me. This is something that has been on my to do list for a while. And at long last, we were able to check it off. So, that is a great example of a task. It is both something I achieved or am proud of, and it is something I finally checked off my to do list. Another prompt in this category is a creative or personal project I worked on. And a great example of that is actually right here, which is this upcycle project I did. I found these chairs on the side of the road put out for trash night, and I drove the car over and threw them in the back of my trunk because I had been looking for dining room chairs. And I just thought that the structure of them looked sound enough and that if they just had a nice paint job, they could be like new again. And so I have my before and after. And these two pieces of trash are now sitting proudly in my dining room. Every month, I also pay attention to notables, which are things that are favorites or just things that I happen to be spending time with that month. So that can look like books, movies, and shows, which you see here with some books that I was reading. I Capture the Castle, which we'll talk about some more probably in our next entry. And then also some of the other books that I read this month with my Storygraph wrap up. We went to see The King of Kings in theaters for Easter, and then also got tickets to go see Murder on the Orient Express. And then for restaurants, I have Sushi Heaven here. I also got to check off getting frozen yogurt with some extra toppings. So all of that falls under the category of notables. Let's now take a look at May. And this is a really fun entry in which the left side of the page is actually all focused on one main experience, which was a backpacking weekend. And so I have who went with us, what the trek was, where we started and where we ended, and then just a list of the highlights down here, as well as some of my favorite photos from the experience. So, really treating the left side of the page just like I would a travel journal entry or a scrapbook entry. And then over on the right is a compilation of all of the other happenings from the month. We once again have some bucket list items we got to check off, in this case, pitching a tent with our camping experience. Of course, planting something edible, which was our veggie garden, lots of tomatoes this year, and planning a trip somewhere exciting, whether far away or local. And as many of you now know, I planned a trip to Peru, and it's hard to believe looking back on this that I was planning it in May and then it happened in July and August, and now it's already in the past. Related to planning a new trip is this point here, which was that I finally documented our trip to Canada, which was a trip we took last May. So it was a year later that I finally documented it. And so, in many ways, that also was a great example of something I finally checked off my to do list. In some ways, it kind of felt like a challenge that I overcame because I just needed to force myself to sit down and do it. And I would say it's also some little joys of the everyday. Travel journaling is something I love to do, but I don't always make the time for it. And so it was nice to have that experience. As always, I have some movies and shows documented. In this case, we rediscovered some old movies that I really enjoyed. Watched Heartland, which is one of my favorite shows because the new season was out. And then my mother in law and I went to see Anastasia, which was absolutely amazing. This was my second time seeing it, this time at a different theater, and it's my favorite. I love Anastasia so very much. And then this up here with this beautiful foil card is actually a tip in. So you can flip it up, and then underneath we have all of the photos from my best friend's wedding. She got married this May, and so it is not only a special event that I attended and an experience with friends, but it also, I think, is an observation of someone who made an impact on me. We've been best friends since grade school, and so it's nice to also get to kind of honor her and our friendship in this spread as well. And on the front here, this is actually cut out from their wedding invitation. So I'm always saving those types of mementos and ephemera to later use in my journal for that personal touch. And next we head into June and the heart of summer, which I have some summer days stickers. And actually, before we went to Peru, I had an incredible trip to Las Islas Galapagos in Ecuador, and this was an incredible opportunity to get to go back to the Galapagos. Actually, if you've been with me for a while, then you know that I actually had the opportunity to go before with my mom, but it was March 2020, and I literally got stranded in the Galapagos due to COVID. It's a whole story. But the fact is that I didn't really get the Galapagos experience that I thought we were going to have that first time. And so when my best friend said she was going to be taking students to the Galapagos this summer and needed a chaperone, I jumped on the opportunity to accompany her and get the real Galapagos experience that I had been hoping for. And as you can see from these photos, we saw so many incredible animals. It really was everything that I hoped it would be. It was such an incredible experience, and I'm so grateful to her. The trip of a lifetime really does sum up that experience. And all of these stickers that you're seeing are actually from a new travel collection that I have available on my Patreon. So I would encourage you to check that out. And speaking of stickers, you might have noticed that on every single one of these entries, I have had these bucket list stickers that I have been pointing out, which has been a great way to focus my documenting every month, to kind of pick a few items that I was trying to accomplish that month. And then when I was able to check them off, I got to add them to my entry. These are available on my Patreon because this is something we have been doing for this entire year, which is designing together. My patrons and I have been designing these monthly bucket lists. And here is a peek at the one for our current month, which is October at the time of filming this. And so every single month you get a bucket list with typically 10 illustrations of items that you may want to try and check off and do that month. And just to live into the idea that the only way we have incredible memories to document in our journals is by first living and experiencing them. And so the whole idea behind these bucket lists is to just live with more intention and to go into the month with more intention about what it is you want to do. And so I hope that these bucket lists have been an encouragement to all of you and have actually helped you in that journey. And then also give you some fun stickers to use in your journal when it comes time to document. So all of these are available over on my Patreon. Every single month, you get one of these stickers as a freebie. But if you want the full bucket list, then you may consider joining any of my paid tiers. So this month, the bucket list items were make a favorite iced drink at home. And so I had been making a lot of iced lattes. This is actually an illustration of the cup that I had been using all summer long for my lattes. So that is super fun. And then read a book outside. Again, I think every single month I document the books that I am currently reading or have read. And so you can see a list of them here. And then I also have a photo of the Machu Picchu book that I was reading, which was also a lazy day by the pool. And in addition to documenting books, I also documented movies. In this case, I watched I Capture the Castle, which is the movie adaptation of the book, which I read for my book club that is just me and my mother-in-law. We called it the Kindred Spirits Book Club because we are kindred spirits, and this was our first book that we ever read together, and we had such an amazing discussion about it. We both adored the book. It was so wonderful. And now, because I loved that experience so much, I actually have started a book club with all of you, and that is called the Abiding Journal Book Club. So you can learn more details about that on my Patreon. I'll also have a video about it eventually soon. But the first book that we are reading together is also I Capture the Castle because I just enjoyed it that much and I wanted to share it with all of you too. Another prompt in the observations category is little joys of the everyday. And that is something I'm capturing in almost every single entry. Little things like this experience of getting to be a beekeeper for a day. And then I said, okay, for 10 minutes, because it really was just a 10-minute experience, being able to get into the bee suit and be taught by my friend who keeps bees, and it was just a fun little daily joy that I didn't expect that day. I also have something as simple as a list of my summer must-haves. So this is another great example of just those little joys of the everyday, like my Tevas sandals. My hammock is one of my biggest joys in the summer. Iced coffee, sunglasses, right? These little things that we can take time to appreciate in our journals. I also have here a prompt for a new discovery, product, or obsession. And I think a good example of that is actually this item down here, which is morning pages. I have a little photo here of my journal in which I've been taking the time to do more stream of conscious writing in the morning, and I've really been enjoying that practice. And then we head into July, and again, we see lots of little joys from making a delicious sun tea, and this is actually a piece of the box that the tea I used came in, and so that is a great example of using items from around the house to really bring your pages to life. Same here, the Attic Sell Trade Consign is a shop that we went to. Same with the Red Stag Pub that you see down here. And these were just business cards that I picked up and cut out to use in my journal to document the experience of this fun weekend getaway with the girls in Bath, Pennsylvania, and the different places that we went as part of that experience. I, of course, again have some books that I was reading. These were really fun books to listen to. I have what we were watching. And then I also have kind of what my main focus was in this month. And that is something that I like to really think about in this category, which is all about hindsight. So looking at the month as a whole picture, really focusing on like what is that theme or prevalent feeling for the month? What is a word or quote to describe the month? And a mindset shift that maybe you were experiencing. And I think that is really captured in this concept of less Monday, more summer, and just a lot of transition and things happening at work. And then the other main prevalent theme for this month was the concept of training and prepping for our trip to Peru. And that will bring us to August. And as you can see, now there is, of course, a glare, but on the left side, we dedicated the entire entry to this really fun collage of Peru. And that is because a third of the month of August was just that. It was us traveling around Peru. And I love how this turned out. This is one where I started the process. Like I said, you can watch them all as live stream recordings here on YouTube, and I just did not know where it was going. I like had this general vision of this really cool collage that kind of walked you through the different places we were, from Cusco to the mountains, and then doing our trek all the way to Machu Picchu, and then ending up in the Amazon. And that is what it turned out to be. I really love how this looks, and I really feel like it encapsulates our trip so beautifully. And of course, we have the collage in the middle of all of the different photos. This collage I made in the Pic Collage app, which is how I do all of my photos. Every single photo you have seen in this journal, in every single entry, was first designed as a collage in the Pic Collage app. And then typically what I do is I cut out the photos so that they are tiny photos that I use throughout the page. But occasionally I design the collage to stay together as one giant 4x6 or 5x7 collage. And in this case, I wanted to keep this together and even put text over it, which you can also do in that app. I love the app. This is not sponsored. It's a free app. I think it's still free anyways, but it's just one that I use all of the time, and it is my secret to designing collages for using in your journaling. So when it comes to theme or prevalent feeling this month, it is definitely the travel experience of Peru, but I would say the other theme and prevalent experience was just a ton of time with friends and family. And so, of course, we have the entire moments category represented here, from anniversaries, birthdays, and milestones, like my husband's birthday, which we were able to celebrate, milestones like my best friend soon having her baby and celebrating her with her baby shower, events we attended like a Hobbit themed birthday party, just some like random dinner parties that we got to experience with friends, really fun seasonal tradition that we have in my family, which is an annual crab fest that we do with our extended family. And so this really was a month dedicated to the moments. And so I feel like I've done a great job of capturing all of those on this spread. And that brings us to September, which is the final month I have documented at this stage in my journal. This is the end of the third quarter of the year, and we will be documenting the fourth quarter of the year in due time, but this is the last spread that I have completed. And I thought for this final entry that I would try and see if we have perhaps something to represent every single one of these prompts on this page. And I think we might be able to do it. So let's see. Under moments, we have anniversary, birthday, or milestone. You can see that represented actually right here with this picture of my mom. September is the anniversary month for her passing, but it also is her birth month. And so I just have this picture of her and me documented here with this gold border of washi tape to really make it pop. The next prompt is events attended or places visited, and that is very easily captured with heading to New York City. Experiences with friends or family, I actually have documented here with a Sunday lunch with some friends. We have seasonal experiences or traditions. Up here in this corner, I have decorating the house for the cozy season. Holidays, observances, or days of significance. I guess we could call maybe the baby shower an example of that, though that definitely is more experience with friends. And then under observations, we have little joys of the everyday. I took this photo of my dog just because it made me happy to see her sleeping all cute. So that's a good example. Details I want to remember. I purposefully drew this little cup of matcha and put this napkin that I got from this matcha store that I then enjoyed on the train ride home, because that was just a little detail of the time in New York City that I really enjoyed and wanted to remember. Someone who made an impact on me, again, I think that would be a good example here with my mom. Though also, I would say this book by E.L. Konigsberg is called From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. And that book had a huge impact on me as a kid. And I forgot it existed until it came up in a booktuber's video. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is the plot of that book that I loved as a child. So I bought it and reread it and loved it all over again. And it's also set in New York City. So I read it on the train and it was a whole experience and I just loved it. And so, in some ways, I would say that author also had an impact on me. Things I love about this time of year, well, that has to be the pumpkin spice latte season. And then challenges that I overcame, I would say that was just a lot of kind of heavy feelings and grief and remembering, and then just also heaviness in the news. And so I kind of did a little bit of journaling about that here. And then for notables, again, we have books that I documented. The Thursday Murder Club was another book that I listened to and really enjoyed. I also documented restaurants and recipes with having chili in the crock pot. And then we also went to a cafe with some friends at a place called Little Amps. So I have that cafe or restaurant documented. New discovery, product, or obsession. I guess we could say I documented the tea that I really am enjoying, which is Caramel Apple Dream. Now, that's not a new tea for me, but it is a current obsession because of the time of year, so we'll count it. Weather, nature, or seasonal changes. I did capture fall in this page, and then I also mentioned that there were lots of baby showers, but no rain. We've had very little rain lately, so that is captured. World events or things in the news. I did talk a little bit about some of the conversations in the news surrounding freedom of speech in the US, so I have that captured here. Something I achieved and or am proud of is documented over here because I hosted a class for the Get Organized virtual conference. So that was a really fun thing that I got to be part of and am proud to have participated in. Consistent habits or routines. I did start going to the gym again and am so sore as a result, so getting back into that habit. Main focus of time or energy, probably captured here with just being busy at work, but also trying in the weekends to spend a lot of time outside. And so I've captured that here with just some experiences out fishing and rock climbing. And then things I finally checked off my to-do list. I don't know that I really do have that captured on this page. Though you might be able to say rock climbing because that is something I had been wanting to do and we just haven't done in so long. And so we'll count it for that. A creative or personal project that I worked on would probably again be the Get Organized course and just some things related to that, like creating this prompt guide for all of you. And then for hindsight, our final category, we have a theme or prevalent feeling for the month, which again, I kind of talked about in some journaling up here. Sometimes when I don't feel like I can represent something visually, I do occasionally do a little bit more long form journaling on these entries just to capture a feeling or sentiment, and that is what I did there. Things I learned about myself, I would say, is kind of all over here, and this mindset shift or a realization that I just want to lean even more into my faith, just try to get away from the fear of sharing your faith and being judged and condemned, and to instead just stand on the rock of God. And so I'm definitely feeling much more bold in my faith. And so that was a mindset shift that I'm currently undergoing and was very prevalent this month. What I am most grateful for, I would probably say, again, time outside. And I didn't mention this before, but this probably should have fallen under little joys, which was seeing this broadhead skink climbing up the wall with me, which is what I actually was trying to document. Is in this photo, it is right here. And so I kind of did a blown up version of what you would be seeing on the wall, which is this little illustration of the broadhead skink as my climbing partner. So it's not necessarily what I'm most grateful for this month, but it is a little joy that I am grateful for. And then a word or quote to describe this month, and probably just, represented in the idea of autumn, or again in this idea of having courage for my faith. And 2 Timothy, for God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. That is really, I think, my quote for the month. And there you have it. That was kind of fun. So I think we were able to stretch some of them a little bit to make it the case that I have every single one of these prompts represented on this page. But the point is that you don't actually have to do every single one of these in a month. You're supposed to just pick a few and document those things, and you'll be amazed at the end of your time how special it will be to be able to look back on all of those memories that you've documented. And I hope that these categories and prompts have given you some ideas of what to document and how easy it is to actually apply them to the page. How all you have to do is print out a cover of that book that you read, or a photo of someone who had an impact on you, or a sticker that represents the weather and the changing season. And all of a sudden, the combination of all of those different things and images and experiences and memories together create this incredible picture of your life. And that ultimately is the point. I said it at the beginning and I'll say it again. Your life is worth documenting. And I hope by seeing the way that I document my life, you are inspired to go and document your own. So I hope that you will consider joining the monthly journaling club. Start right now. It's a great time to start because it's a good way to kind of get in the rhythm and habit of it before we start a brand new year. And then you will be ready to get fully underway in 2026. And at the end of 2026, imagine how amazing it will be to have your life from that entire year documented in just 12 pages, looking something like this, but being all your own, because it's going to be your friends and your family and your memories and your experiences and your milestones and the things that you're proud of and your beautiful one-of-a-kind life. So I hope that you are encouraged, and I hope that you will consider joining us. Tune in for our monthly journaling club live streams and head over to my Patreon to get access to all of the bucket list stickers and all of the other themed stickers that I put out, like my travel journal collection, and of course, the prompt grid. So go ahead and head over to Patreon to download your own prompt grid for completely free. The link is in the description. I hope that you have learned a lot about how easy it can be to document your life and how you really can do it 1 month at a time. If you want some more inspiration on how to document your life monthly, check out my monthly journaling playlist here, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.